Okay, everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Accommodation Show. This week, I am joined by the wonderful Tim Rosolio from Expedia. He is the Vice President of Partner Success Vacation Rentals. Welcome to the show.
Terrific to be here, Bart. I feel like you live in Australia, I live in Austin, Texas, and we probably see each other 10 weeks a year, right? I mean,
Yeah, that's right.
Part of the fun of being on the global circuit in this fun industry of vacation rentals.
And that's the great thing about the industry. That's what I'll tell you my backstory just to sort of digress a little bit. But when I was a kid, I always wanted to be an international businessman. And one of the questions would be, and this is like 10 years old, they'll say, "Oh, what kind of business?" And I never knew. I never knew what kind of business. Like, I don't know, business. You just go do business, don't you? And I figured out that selling toilet paper would be a really good business because everybody needs toilet paper and that's going to work. But yet I've ended up here, and it's so nice to be able to see people and experience cultures and doing it in the world that we live in, which is, in travel, in the thick of it. It's a real privilege, isn't it?
It certainly is. I think you've successfully become an international businessman. What did they call Austin Powers? An international man of mystery.
Mystery, yeah.
You might be an international man of mystery.
That's right. If only I wasn't doing a podcast every week exposing all my inner truths on social media. That part I didn't know about when I was a kid. Tim, you're absolutely right. So look, I think I'm pretty sure maybe the first time we actually had a bit of a chat was actually just last year at the ASTRA conference here in Sydney. But then there's VRMA and so on and so forth. It's a real privilege to have you on because of kind of the position you command within the industry at Expedia, at VRBO. I would love you to sort of, for those that don't know who you are, and for you to introduce yourself and let you know where you sit in within the short-term rental, vacation rental puzzle.
Sure, happy to do that. So, my title is Vice President of Vacation Rental Partner Success for Expedia Group. And within Expedia Group, well, that can kind of mean a lot of things. Expedia Group has a lot of brands. Expedia Group has Expedia and Hotels.com and What If and websites where traditionally people have largely gone to book hotels. They largely were built via mergers and acquisitions. And one of the mergers and acquisitions that they did is they bought a company in 2015 called HomeAway at the time, now called Vrbo. And Vrbo was also a company that was built via mergers and acquisitions. Vrbo, is a leading family-based short-term rental accommodation website in America. But we also own Stays and Book a Batch in your area of the world. We have Favo Direct. We have Abratel in Europe. We have a variety of brands. And all I would say is that if all of these brands are stores, it's my job to stock the shelves with great vacation rentals. And we do that in a variety of ways. We do that by acquiring the best supply. And then we also, once that inventory is live, we have a team of 250 dedicated global account managers that work with property managers and individual owners to make sure that that inventory is ready to book and fly off the shelves on those various retail store sites. So I think that's the easiest way of putting it. I stock the shelves for a vacation rental website.
Yeah, I love it, and it's great. Thank you for explaining it. And I think most people do know, but that sort of breadth across the world, that sort of globality of all those different brands and tying them all together, it's really interesting. And I do remember that with OTAs and with those websites, that working within a local space and having a local brand is so important, and that's kind of why that strategy is quite important. Where you have some of your competitors that have managed to sort of leverage that parent brand. Here you've got more kind of like a house of brands that sort of sits in, but then you've got that whole group that drives everything from, like your distribution of stock, right? Like, so you can push it across all those different platforms across the world into those local, I guess, mini OTAs. How do you see that puzzle fit together?
Yeah. So the way that we think of it is we are building common technology for all of these websites while still leveraging the local brands because we know those local brands are so important. I
Mm,
mean, in particular, just if you think of What If and Stays, these are really institutions in Australia
mm,
and in the case of Book a Batch in New Zealand. And you can't take these websites that people have been going to for years, and maybe their parents even booked
mhm,
travel on these websites, and people take pride in the local brand. And you can't say magically, well, now it's all this. It's all this company that has more of a American identity, for example.
mm.
Transparently, there was a time when we tried that. We tried it in your area of the world, and it really didn't work. And it was a great learning for us because we reversed that decision and really understood the equity that we have in those local brands and how much people love Stays, how much people love Book a Batch, and how much people love What If. You can't you can't try to strictly globalize and Americanize these local brands and local institutions.
It's fascinating. Even if I think about my parents are out in New Zealand, and when they talk about Book a Batch, it's in the lexicon. It's in it's sort of like almost in the language, right? It's like, oh, that's where you go. I was on Book a Batch. It's just such a strong brand that people have a lot of association with it, right? They know it. They talk about it. They talk about, well, if you're going to make a booking, this is where you go.
Exactly. And what we find is when they have that affinity for a brand, it makes all of the economics surrounding our entire booking funnel really efficient. Um,
Yeah.
for example, on Book a Batch, we have really high conversion because people understand the brand. They get to the website. We have the experience they want. They have the houses they want. So just that entire experience from exploration through booking through post stay, it's really strong on these local brands rather than some brand that you're still getting used to what they represent. You're still getting used to the functionality. There's a lot of value in that stickiness and that familiarity of the local brand.
Yeah, I love it. Cool. So we've got that part down. I think we've got it ticked and covered, which is great. Vacation rentals within sort of your job. Vacation rentals was has been growing rapidly with time. The investment of online travel agents into this space has only grown with that. Um, your role within the business, I don't actually know exactly how long you've been there. I'm a bit embarrassed, but I'd love to know sort of the journey of vacation rentals within the OTA sphere to from where we were maybe 5 years ago to now. Tell me what we need to learn.
Yeah. Um, I think the short answer is we used to call this alternative accommodation. And because of people considering this part of like their everyday shopping experience, it's not that alternative anymore.
Hmm.
And as people really are thinking about this as for every trip they go on, they think about would a vacation rental be a good option? That means that the OTAs are going to invest in it more. And we've seen that dramatically over the past 5 years with all of the interesting things that have happened in the world. I think
Yeah.
we were we all had that oh bleep moment in February of 2020 where we had a nice summer that was coming together, or maybe in your area of the world some of the seasons are different, but you're starting to build this book of business, and then suddenly all of the bookings go away, and we're all looking around saying like, wow, I wonder what's going to happen. And
Hmm.
what was really interesting was a couple months later, people were comfortable with traveling, but they weren't comfortable in doing it at a hotel. So we went on this run. We went on this run as a category for probably a year and a half to 2 years, where there was totally insatiable demand. Everybody wanted to go to short term rental accommodations with space to enjoy time with friends and family. And a lot of people discovered the category during that period of time.
Mm.
And that's, to a certain extent, Vrbo or Stays or our other brands help facilitate that. But it was really on the backs of the local property managers that didn't just deliver a house, but they delivered an experience.
Mm-hmm.
They delivered the perfect welcome gift every time. They delivered a spotless home. If something went wrong, there was somebody that could call. And I think because of that experience that happened in that 1.5 to 2 years, there are more and more people considering vacation rentals as part of their consideration set, even in a post-pandemic, knock on wood somewhere, world.
Yeah.
So that's the big trend first, is the demand trend.
Mm.
The next trend I think that you need to consider when you look at our space is there's this insatiable demand, which was great for all of us. During that period of time, you also had many homeowners that said, you know what? I'm hearing a lot about this short-term rental thing. I've always had this dream of having a lake house, a beach house, a place to ski. Suddenly, this is something that's affordable. So we've had this great run, really probably over the past 2 years, of increasing supply. And because of that, we're in this interesting place where there's more options that are available on the market, which is great for the traveler. But along with that, it means that there's more of an opportunity or a challenge of differentiation amongst operators to make sure that you're in position to fill up your houses in a time where demand's still good, but probably not quite as strong as it was at the height of the pandemic when people couldn't go to hotels.
Yeah, and that demand curve was pretty crazy, and when things have gone back to how they normally were or how they should be, it's been interesting to see everyone call it a bust, right? We've busted. It's like, well, no. Actually, you were just on a massive high, and now things are kind of normal, and you're gonna have to be competitive.
Anybody who says it's a bust, you just need to show them this is the size of the pie in 2019. This is the size of the pie now. The size of the pie now might not be quite as big as it was in, say, 2021, but it's certainly a lot closer to that than it was in 2019. So I don't buy the bust narrative. I think that's people
it's great for social
creeping for
media.
attention. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Look, and that's actually a really big thing that I've noticed recently. If you say negative things, the algorithms seem to pick them up very, very strongly. So that kind of rhetoric, it works really, really well for getting hits and likes and that sort of thing. So maybe we'll add that to the title of this one. Is the bust real? We'll have everybody watching us. Amazing. So I want to talk a little bit. So we'll talk about today. So for all of our listeners, we'll talk about some trends, some technology, and that sort of thing. But I also want to talk about STR as a bit of a category, because this show goes out to many people that are within the accommodation space. So even hotel owners, motel owners, campsite owners as well. They'll listen to this. Oh, there's some great ideas. Now, I've always seen vacation rentals as, and I think you said it was an alternate category, and it's a different product that you're offering as opposed to a traditional hotel. You can't put your family into a hotel in the same way, because you're either all sharing a room, you don't have the same amenities. You might service apartments might be the closest to this, but it's also not the same category. How do you feel about where the vacation rentals and short-term rental fits in terms of product, in terms of category?
Yeah, I think you touched on something interesting there. Because the value proposition is so clear, right? You can get this 4-bedroom house with a kitchen, with multiple bathrooms, with a yard, with a grill, etc. And you very often can get that and have a better experience for a much better price than you could get 4 hotel rooms. Now, so that's the opportunity. That's the value proposition that everybody's really latched onto. The challenge always has been trust. So
Mm.
typically, I think people understand with a hotel, it's kind of what you see is what you're going to get, versus the idea of staying at somebody's house. And every one of these houses is a little bit different. And at least in the case of our channels, there's never anybody there. There's not somebody, the host isn't directly present. How do I ensure to people in the booking process and then also in the stay process that people feel really comfortable with this challenge of trust? And so much of that really comes down to, I think this is where OTAs really play a role, is we play this role of, if people get bookings and they have good experiences, we drive the opportunity to facilitate reviews. That history doesn't just give you the value of that booking, it drives the opportunity for the next booking. Because, I don't think I'm laying out any secrets here, but it's conversion and trust that ultimately drives sort and ranking. So if you can demonstrate that you deliver the right experience, if you can demonstrate trust, you're likely to get the next booking, and that creates the cycle. And that's the opportunity we have. How can we demonstrate this amazing value proposition while in parallel alleviating some concerns around trust and quality? And that's somewhere that I'm really excited about where the industry is going. I think that people really understand that if you're going to a vacation rental, this isn't necessarily like, well, I'm like, if I were to go to your house, hopefully, we know each other. Hopefully you'd straighten up a little bit.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be as clean as a hotel. And
Yeah.
the expectation in vacation rentals is it's going to be as clean as a hotel. Service is going to be top notch. If something goes wrong, there's somebody there to help me. So there's this opportunity to demonstrate trust, which is great for the category long term.
Yeah. You're just opening so many different potential avenues that we can go to. And there's standardization of the industry so that people know that if they do book a vacation rental or short-term rental, that this is a minimum level of service they're going to get. One of the things that I don't know whether we want to go there or not, but there's also the cleaning, right? The cleaning fees, and something that you touched on as well, that people's expectations, and this is happening more and more now. People have got expectations that might be this high. Then you've got ability to deliver. Then you've also got the host communication in terms of what they're saying they're going to provide, and they're not able to actually provide that level of service because it's just impossible. The math doesn't make sense, right? They can't have someone cleaning a whole house for 20 hours to make it look like as nice as a hotel room would. And that's kind of like this challenge that's always going to be there, that it will cost a fortune to clean a place to that particular standard. And therefore no one wants to pay for it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing in our industry right now, especially with all of the things that are happening with labor. Actually, if you just look on a global basis, finding great cleaners is probably harder than ever. But then there's also this challenge of, like, it's kind of the linchpin of the entire operation is cleaning. If you can find that great cleaner, that is the start of delivering a great stay. And when you deliver that great stay, you get the great review, and then you get the next booking. So cleaning is at the it's a very critical element of our industry. I do think our consumers are willing to pay reasonable cleaning fees to make sure that they ultimately get the experience they want when they come into the house. And I think there's some interesting technology that's available in the space for people that are trying to improve that experience. You see people working with Breezeway. You see people working with different tools within their property management software. I've had conversations with a really cool company called Turno. I don't know if you know ASAF, but Turno is a
I because we're here, they coming to Strive to my conference in well, it depends on when the episode airs, but I just saw the paperwork come through. So we've got Mike coming in, and he hopefully will be presenting at the conference as well and talking about some of the things that they're doing.
Yeah, and I met Mike actually just a few weeks ago. I mean, if you think of the OTAs have built a marketplace for supply and demand of travelers and homes. They've built a marketplace surrounding homeowners or property managers and cleaners with all of the same marketplace dynamics that I was talking about, where in this case, the supply is the labor, and people, by delivering great cleanings, get reviews on surrounding their experience so that you can look on their channels and say, oh, this person's cleaned 25 houses and every time it's been perfect with 5-star reviews. It's an interesting marketplace within a marketplace, which we're really excited to explore options to work with.
So I feel that STR is challenging the traditional way that accommodation runs in so many ways. So there's a lot of incumbent infrastructure with hotels, with the way that they run. And it's, why do we do it? Oh, because we always run it this particular way. And because of the nature of a hotel and the scale of a hotel, quite often it's very difficult to run at pace and to do technological changes, because you've got a lot more risk. You just can't go and change a big process because it just affects everything, and there's so much money which is on the line. With vacation rentals, you can do a lot more spot testings. You can bring in technology. You can try to check in a bunch of guests in one way and go, oh, shit, that isn't working. We're going to try a different technology solution, and you can keep on optimizing. And you've got this distribution of technological testing, like almost A/B testing, where I think that the hotels, by the nature of the product that they have, they just sure they can do it, but not as fast. So STR is actually pushing a lot of those solutions from our side through to the hotels, going, oh, actually you can achieve guest check-in, not wireless, but you know what I mean, like without a check-in desk, right? So you can do it through the technology, you can do it through the phone. Where do you feel like? Did you feel the same way about it?
Yeah, that's an interesting one. I actually hadn't really thought much about. I mean, I think the first thing that I would say is perhaps there was a time when hotel companies thought of short-term rentals and they sort of said like, oh, like, is that like when somebody stays on an air mattress in somebody else's house? And I think that they have kind of taken their head out of the sand surrounding that, and transparently, like, they went in on the game. You look at things that have developed, like Marriott hotels and Marriott villas. They're
Homes and villas.
Homes and villas. There you go. They are building an offering because they understood that there were many of their traditional Bonvoy travelers that would stay in hotels all the time and then would want to stay in a vacation rental. And that's why, and probably in the past, they hopefully booked on Expedia or Vrbo, and hopefully they still do. But they appropriately said, like, I want in on this game because this thing's here to stay. And another thing is that it's an interesting comment on some of the technology. I just checked in to a hotel that I'm going to tomorrow. I did it on my phone via an app, and I'm not 100% sure if they got their inspiration from vacation rentals, but that certainly is a possibility, because that experience is something that's relatively new to hotels. But the idea of like getting your code for your smart lock, like, we've been doing that in vacation rentals for a little while now, and people probably loved that experience. And as such, it's expanding to major hotel conglomerates that want in on that technology.
Yeah. So my I don't know, my hypothesis is that STR is driving a lot of that technology and a lot of those changes through everything that we do, and the way that we think about things, because we're scrappy, we're agile. The way that we do things can be unconventional and untraditional, and there's not as much risk, and you'll know, like, even, we're just talking about Breezeway, Turner, and you'll know that by this time next year, there's going to be another 100, 200, 300 new technology companies coming out with really cool ideas, especially now that we've got AI in the space. I guess it's a really nice transition through to technology and trends and that sort of thing. What is your take on where technology is at, what we can kind of expect in the next 12 to 24 months?
Yeah. So I think that it's just you're going to continue to see massive innovation and massive VC funding just because of the growth of the category, and that makes sense. The other thing that's interesting about vacation rentals is there's all this opportunity, but actually, in terms of like the actual online version of this, we're still kind of in our infancy, which means that there's lots of opportunities to innovate, whether it's something like Breezeway, whether it's something like Turno, whether it's some of these interesting noise or smoke detection devices. There's people that are building technology to try to drive better rates. There's better technology in terms of the property management software companies. Property management software companies have been around for a long time, but I think it's a newer thing that you're seeing, sort of these property management software companies that are actually built for smaller property managers. And it's going to be interesting to see what happens in all of that landscape as you have certain startups, you have certain property management software companies like Guesty that might really be built, at least originally, for smaller players. We own what I believe is a best-in-class software called Escapia that's very good for large partners. And it's going to be interesting to see, as people continue to invest in the space, what happens to all of these good ideas. Is there tons of more M&A? Or do people, rather than saying, I'm going to buy, I'm going to build? I mean, there's just so many new ideas that people are going to jump on, because there's a lot of money to be made when an industry is this hot, and the industry is in really like the early stages of innovation, I would consider it.
What on that? There was a question I wanted to ask kind of before, but we'll come back to the tech thing just in a sec, because the standardization of the industry will be, technology will help us get there. Be it staff, cleaners, review scores, how well the business is operating, so we can start to standardize and really become better operators as a whole. Standardization, though, when we have many disparate individual mom and dad homeowners running their own property versus a property management company that might have 100, 200, 1,000 properties under management, it's a completely different proposition, because of, you can standardize 1,000. Standardizing 1,000 times one or two is a lot different. What are your thoughts on? Do you think we're just going to have more and more property managers to create that standardization? Do you think we'll manage to train everybody on how to do things properly? Because that part I don't see, unless there's some sort of massive technological change.
Here's how I would think of it. I think that there's still going to be a variety of technology solutions for the entire gamut, from an individual owner like me who has a lake house to Will Cretan at Elagio or Vacasa, right? Like there's different tool sets that these companies need. However, I think what you're seeing time and time again is the partners, and we call them partners, whether they're owners or property managers, that deliver the professional experience are the ones that are going to win. So I think that the people that are forward thinking in that standardization to make sure that the experience is amazing every single time they're the people that are going to win, and they're the people that are going to get the more bookings. You often hear at every conference that you and I are at, like, it's about leveling up the industry. The leveling up is about leveling up the traveler experience, because that's the holy grail. That's what we're all chasing, especially in this time of more supply options than ever. Like, if your house is on the beach, you might be able to do things in very much an old school way. You might occasionally be able to have a hiccup in terms of service because your house is just so darn good. But if you're 4 blocks off the beach, you better be delivering a really professional experience every time, because the quality of your piece of inventory isn't good enough to overcome mediocre customer and traveler experience. So I
Yeah.
think the value is, and you sort of touched on it, part of the value of the category is all of these bespoke and non-standardized at all pieces of inventory and properties. But the opportunity very much is, how do we deliver that standardized and amazing, seamless traveler experience? Because those are the operators that are going to win. And for what it's worth, like, at our company at least, we don't care if you're a professional property manager or an individual owner, as long as you're delivering that experience. We don't have any affinity for either side.
Yeah. And I think that the nice thing, the little tidbit that you gave everybody before was, if you want to do well, you want to rank well, and I don't think it matters which OTA you're looking at. The better service you're providing, the more consistency, the higher you're going to rank, and the more bookings you're going to get. I mean, it's kind of a natural convergence. On that, and I'm conscious that we're very, very close to running out of time, and we're almost going to go. I could do an hour or two with you, Tim. So maybe the key to this is to get you to come back and then delve into maybe a few specific topics that would provide the most value to
We should do
people.
it. We should do it live from Astra later this year. Huh?
Or come to Strive. And then you can do it with me there. Either way, yeah, absolutely. Look, I think last year I did a bunch of recordings with people at VRMA, but my mic didn't work properly. So I've got these really, really insightful piece of information to share with everybody, but the mic wasn't good. So it's all, you can hear everybody else in the background, but 100%, I think that'll be awesome. Um, but before we go, I'm going to ask a few little quick fire ones, if that's
Yep.
okay. And you may be able to answer, you might not. The first one is around cleaning fees, included or excluded in. Should the customer the guest be able to see the cleaning fee or not?
Well, they absolutely should see it. Like, the days of the bait and switch in our industry, that is absolutely over. You need to
Yeah,
see the full price up front. Now, in
upfront. Yeah,
different
yeah.
in
Right.
different areas of the world, the treatments and price display for how you do that, different companies are going to do things that drive conversion. But the idea of burying that at the end, those days are long over.
So that, yep. So that part I agree with. But what about the in the breakdown of fees? Should they be able to see the cleaning fee, or should it just be included in the overall price?
Our studies indicate the consumer doesn't care.
Ha. Okay, good. That's one that I had there. Ranking higher on an OTA. You've got a bunch of different brands that you operate. What are the main strategies that people should look at to rank higher? And I know we've already started to cover this.
It's all conversion driven. So the first thing is the reviews, because that's the trust signal. And then beyond that, there's something surrounding ease of booking. If you're not instant bookable, well, I guess what I would say is you better be on the beach. And if you have a 100% strict no refund cancellation policy, again, you better be on the beach or on the ski mountain. And the reason why is, we have all the data in the world that indicates this is what the traveler wants. This is what's going to convert better. Whatever converts better is going to rank higher in sort.
Gotcha. Dynamic pricing. Good thing to have, not a good thing to have. What should people do with that, with those solutions?
I think the more granular that you can be about pricing, whether you do that yourself or you pay for it, you're going to be in better shape. It's a miracle sometimes. You sometimes look at a property and they have the same price for every day of the year. And then they're like in Singapore or something. So you're like, yeah, I don't think that people are going to want to go there during the summer. You should probably have a different rate. The amount of time that I see things like that is staggering. So I think the more granular you can be, the smarter and the better you'll be.
For everybody, gotcha. Property listing and descriptions. We can sell property and we can say how all the features that we have of our property, but also we can create our listing in a way where we talk about the benefits. But the benefits of having a pool and a spa, or having 4 bedrooms rather than 3 bedrooms, or an ensuite in each room, can quite often be based on the person that you're talking to. So the big kitchen will be of benefit in a different way to a different group of travelers. So when we're building our listings, we can think about the avatar that generally, or the type of client that's visiting us. So we're building our listing. When we're listing on an OTA like yours, do we want to talk about to our chosen avatar, or do we want to keep it a little bit more generic and bland so that anybody could book?
On our websites, you want to speak to what would be enticing to a family. And that's us. I can't speak to our competitors, but we coach our partners to not just speak to the fact that you have a kitchen, but speak to the fact that you have a big kitchen where multiple people can be cooking and spending time together. Speak to, if you have a lake house, speak to all the toys that the kids can enjoy when they're hanging out down by the lake. Like, I can't speak to others, but for us, it's all about tell the family story.
Sure. Yeah, but that's right. But then you'd agree with this probably, that if you've got apartments in the city which you're listing, you're also not going to talk about that stuff, right? You're going to talk about, to a business traveler or to the type of person that's probably going to stay in those, right?
For sure. And for those, I probably talk about location.
Yeah. Beautiful. Those are my quick fire questions, Mr. Tim. You're really insightful, and I feel let me try that again. It's an absolute privilege for you to spend your time with us. I know how many different things you've got going on in your world, and it's nice to have met you when you came to Australia, and that you're really genuine about trying to just help people out and help the industry out and share information and share knowledge. And I like that that's the way that you approached this interview. It wasn't about any particular agenda. It's like, how can we strengthen the industry so that we've got great experiences for people. So Tim, thank you so much for coming on the show. What's the best way for people to sort of engage with you, your team, the business? What would you recommend people do?
So I think for the team, hopefully, if you're a property manager, you have an account manager. If you don't have an account manager, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn and I can see what I can find for you. Because we believe in service, and we almost certainly have a dedicated person that's there to help you. If you want to engage with me, I'll see you on the conference circuit, or you can find me on LinkedIn. And I'm sure I will see you on said conference circuit this upcoming year, Bart.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, Tim, thank you so much. Once again, I sincerely appreciate you, and I'm looking forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks for having me, Bart.
Thanks.